Hi, my name is Jasmine. I have been with Mentor for about 5 years. And so today we're just going to go over some basics for getting started. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was establishing our relationship with our parents that we're going to be working with. We see a lot of different clients, a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different parenting styles. And so it's really important to first and foremost just be really flexible and open-minded. There's a lot of different cultures we're going to come across, a lot of different parenting styles we're going to come across, and a lot of different family dynamics just in general. And for us to be trusted and welcomed into the home, it's just going to be important to be willing to let the family and the parents be the experts on what they're going through and to really trust their judgment. So a few ways that we can begin to develop that relationship is really starting with that first impression, representing California Mentor professionally, making a good first impression. I like to go into my first visit without any toys and just set up the parent with the expectation that we're really just going to be talking and getting to know each other. And in that moment, you really want to also be able to just validate what the parent has been through. So part of that is just asking, what are your concerns? What would you like to work on? Do you remember the goals that you set up with Regional Center? What does that mean to you? Has any of that changed? Just really being there, being open and asking those open-ended questions so the parents really know that, yes, we are here for your child, but we're also here for you, and we're here to support you in any way that we can and help make learning as much fun and as beneficial for you and the family as possible. The other part of that is relatability. So I believe that there is a good balance between professionalism and being a friend of the family. And so that can get a little bit tricky, but you really want to be able to balance both. Yes, we're professionals. We're going to uphold mentors' practices, but we also want to make sure we can find some common ground with our parents. So if you have children of your own, that's a great place to start, just understanding the challenges that come with being a parent. And if not, I don't have children of my own currently, and I really just find other ways to relate to my families, whether it's travel experiences, types of foods that we like. All of that will come up with just really getting to know your parents. An appropriate sense of humor is also a great way to really build that bond with your parents and just meet them where they're at and really bond on a person-to-person level instead of I'm the professional who's here to help you work with your child. It's more of like building that team dynamic and saying, we're both needed for this. We're both on the same field. I have the education. You have the expertise. Let's do it together. With tougher parents, or parents that are a little bit more challenging to get along with immediately, I have found that those are the types of parents that really just want to make sure that you know what you're talking about. They want to make sure that they are getting the best for their child, and sometimes trying to build a friendship first doesn't work with those parents. So what I found really solidifies that relationship with the parent is just really knowing what we're talking about, or if we don't know, being very honest about it, and then being reliable and finding out an answer and being able to bring that into the next session. I guess a good example of that that's going to come up, maybe how the child will be able to function in school. And so because I have some experience with working with children in schools, I'm able to provide more of a background for that situation and say, even with language delays, here's how kids typically do in schools, and here's what we'll need to work on to get your child ready for school. And not sounding like you're faking it or phoning it in. And if you don't know the answers, that's perfectly fine as well. You just want to make sure you're being honest with the parent, saying, that's a great question. Let me check in with my supervisor or service coordinator, and I'll get back to you by next week. and then you really want to follow through. And more parents feel at ease knowing that, yes, we are professionals. Yes, we do know what we're talking about, and they can trust that if they have questions, they can come to us and we will find answers. And the other part of that is the follow through. So what can be challenging, especially as your caseload gets bigger, is being able to remember what you told parents you would work on, being able to remember what kid needs what, and which parents are waiting on answers, and they may forget as well. But to really build that trust and that great relationship with your parents and your families, I found it helpful to take little notes directly on my schedule to remind myself that next week I told this family that I would bring them resources on potty training. So I really want to make sure that I'm following through with that, not only for the child, but for the family as well, so that they learn with these little actions that we're trustworthy, we're here for them, and we're someone that they can really lean on when it comes to the development of their child. That leads us into our next section, which is wording suggestions for our parents, being able to provide our parents with feedback in a way that's helpful for them and easy for them to follow through. So some of the things that I try to do is, when giving a parent a suggestion or asking them to follow through with their homework for the week with their child, I really try to word things in an inclusive way. And an example of that would be, hey, I've noticed he's not pointing yet, so let's work on this next week. Or how about we practice pointing in our next few sessions, and then you can try it for about 5 minutes, 3 days a week, and let me know how it feels. So it's not putting the entire responsibility on your parent, it's bringing the parent in as a member of the team by saying we, let's, us, those really inclusive words that allow your parent to feel like they're part of the team and to feel like you're working together and not all of the pressure is on them. The other part of that is focusing on the positive. So rather than making a suggestion by saying, hey, the next time your child throws a tantrum, don't pay attention to them. I don't want you to look at them, wait for them to calm down. It's more beneficial to focus on the positive language use. And so instead of telling your parent what you don't want them to do, that can leave them kind of confused. So it would be more helpful to focus on the positive side of that. So rather than saying, don't pay attention to your kid when they tantrum, I don't want you to make eye contact with them. Say, you know what, Mom? It seems like this tantrum might be for attention. Next time it happens, let's try walking away, making sure they're safe, and we're just going to take a break in another room until you hear them sort of calm down. Or let's try putting on some calming music and maybe not addressing the tantrum right away. Something like that. That way they do know what is appropriate. They know what we would like them to do, instead of us possibly confusing them by saying, don't do this, don't do this, don't do that, and challenging our parents not to do what feels natural. We want to give them the tools in a more positive way to encourage them. Say, let's try it this way this time. Let me know how it goes. And then, of course, reinforcing your parents and establishing a common goal are really great ways to get your parents to follow through. So if you notice that there's this discrepancy between how your parents are responding to their kid and what you want them to learn, especially with language use. I've had a mom recently where in the middle of session, I said, okay, Mom, I want you to get a coloring activity ready and hold up 2 options, ask her which color she wants, and then we're gonna help her point to the one that she tries to grab. And so Mom held up the color, she asked her child which one she wanted, and then let her snatch it right out of her hand. So what I did was reinforce Mom, because it's a new skill, and I said, great job, Mom. That was a great job offering those 2 choices. Next time we're ready to switch colors, we're gonna try it again, and then I want you to put the other color down, the one that she's not trying to grab, the one she's not looking at, and then we're gonna hold her hand and try to help her point to the marker. So I tried to focus on really simple instructions. I reinforced the little steps that mom did do correctly because she is learning a new skill, and it's not going to be perfect right away. And then we just kept practicing. And then afterwards I told mom, you know what, that was a great job. Thank you for trying that. The reason we did this is because we want to work on language. And so that was bringing up a common goal, because you want parent buy-in for why they have to change how they're working with their child. Some of them may come ready into the program, ready to change, ready to take on new skills and learn and adapt the way that we're teaching their child, but some parents will take longer to change. And for those parents, it's very important to remind them of what the common goal is, because learning a new skill is going to be challenging for all of us, especially our parents, especially if they're not first-time parents and they didn't have the same challenges with their first child. It's going to be essential for us to really connect it to what we want to work on. If we want to work on language, how is this activity going to help the kid in the long run? Why should the parent continue to do it this way? Or if there's concerns about behaviors like throwing tantrums for attention, and you want the parent to walk away from the child, to give the child a break and not feed into those behaviors, why should we be doing that? How is it not giving that child all the attention going to be beneficial toward their long-term goals? You really want to be able to explain that, talk the parent through it, because they have as much to learn as their child does, and as much to learn as we do from working with that family. And that kind of brings us into parent involvement. As I mentioned before, I really like to set that expectation from day one, where we're introducing ourselves to the parents, where we're learning about the kid. It's really essential to remind the parent that this is a parent training program. We're not the same as speech, we're not the same as OT or physical therapy, where the parent can sort of step back and watch what's going on in the session. We're a lot more hands-on. And so half of our job is parent training. You really want to emphasize that in that first session. So that way the parent is coming into the program with that expectation that they will be participating. They're responsible for learning the skills that we're teaching them. We are not here to take over. We're not here to fix the kid while the parent does laundry. We're not a babysitting service. We're a parent coach, and also a teacher for the child. And so setting that expectation from day one is the most helpful. It can be a little overwhelming to sort of feel like we're placing this expectation on a parent we just met, but at the same time, it's easier to do it in that first session than it is to not do it at all and to wait until the parent is not participating and then try to change them later on down the line. The other part of that is, if you're still struggling afterwards to keep your parents involved, make up opportunities to get your parents involved in the session. So if I have parents who step away to use the restroom and then they come back, that's perfectly fine. If you have parents that try to go into another room or try to go upstairs, or they want to go outside, I'll really just use the child as sort of my leverage to remind the parent gently that they do need to be physically present and they do need to be a part of the session. So an example of that is, if a parent wants to go outside to do something, just immediately offer, okay, we'll clean up right now so we can come outside with you. That'll be great. We can do this activity outside. Or if your child, sneezes in session, or is hungry and it's snack time, or they seem like they might be thirsty, just grabbing the kid's hand, walking with them, hey, let's go find mom, let's ask mom for water. And really using those little moments to bring the parents back in. The other part of that is, you could even text or call your parents beforehand and say, today I want to work on social skills. Can you have some Play-Doh and some toys ready? We're going to work on imitation. Or being able to say, you know what, I really want to work on fine motor today. Can you have a coloring activity ready for us? Let's get some small pieces of chalk and let's go outside today. And just those types of warnings ahead of time will kind of let your parent know before the session even begins that they're expected to have some tools ready and that they will be needed to participate in that activity. All of those things are just some tips, some things that I've used to make sure my parents are actively participating consistently, and that expectation that they will be a part of our sessions never ignored. They're always inclusive, even when it's challenging. Sometimes it can be hard to work with really anxious or really demanding parents. And at the same time, that's also part of our job to just help our parents slow down, to take things step by step, relax, enjoy the moment that they have with their child, and to really help them balance their own time management skills, right? Because that hour we're in the home, that 2 hours we're in the home, is supposed to be centered around that child. Yes, our parents are very busy and they have many, many other things to do. But at the same time, it's not our job to relieve them from their child care. It's our job to make their parenting more conducive to their child's learning. So we're not here to give them a break from time management. If our parents do need time management resources, we could potentially help with that, but our presence is not a break from being a parent. It's just a more inclusive way of learning and teaching parents how to work with their children, and then they can hopefully learn to manage their time and their other responsibilities, again, outside of that session, because we don't often take up much of our parents' time, and our children often do need that quality time with the parents as well. So us being there is a great backup to help our parents and our children get more face-to-face time together. And again, if your parents are very busy and they're canceling because of doctor's appointments or last minute work schedules or things that seem to pop up a lot and you really can't get them involved and you're trying to have them set up things ahead of time, you've reiterated the importance of their involvement and how much we need them for the child's success, you can always lean back on your supervisor, reach out, ask what you should do, reach out and ask other teammates what you should do, make sure you're documenting all of your cancellations and why, and offer those makeup sessions. But I would be very careful to get into this pattern of being okay with last minute cancellations and then making yourself available whenever the parent needs you, because setting those boundaries is going to be very important for us and our mental health, as well as modeling good, healthy boundaries for that parent. Coming into the program, the parent does need to be ready to adjust, be ready to participate and learn, and also follow our cancellation policy. It's in all the paperwork that they've signed and agreed to. So when it's absolutely necessary, reach out to somebody, a supervisor or director, and get some backup and really make sure that you're advocating and pushing to have your parent in your session and actively participating, because at the end of the day, it's for the best benefit of the child. We're only in their lives for a couple of hours every week at a time. The parent is going to be with this child for the rest of their life, and they will need these skills as they continue to navigate through school and becoming a teenager and the rest of the child's life. So this is the best time for our parents to make that adjustment and to learn. And we're really the ones that are going to be modeling that and going to be leading our parents through this growth. The other part of that includes parent accountability. As far as working on goals and giving little homework assignments on our activity reports, I try to stick to one goal per week, especially if you're seeing a kiddo multiple times during the week. I would stick to one goal for that week, maybe two if you feel like your parent's really up to it. but chances are anything more than one is going to be a lot to remember, and even one extra goal might be a lot for our parents to remember and keep track of. So I try to use very simple wording. I try to make sure it's something that I worked on in the session that I know the parents saw me do. That way they can go in feeling more confident. The more you can have the parent practice that goal in the session with you there, the better, the higher their chances are of following through on their own will be, because they feel more confident that they have the skills to do it. And then educating the parents again, letting them know why working on that skill, why their involvement is necessary for the child's development and success in the program. And then being able to, again, reinforce your parent and really make them feel like part of the treatment team. Because oftentimes our parents expect us to come in, take over, and their kid is going to come out magically, you know, speaking in 5-word sentences and sitting and playing with their siblings quietly so the parent can get all their chores done. These are toddlers, so that doesn't happen often. But we really want to have our parents feel like they're really part of the team, and it's not just the parent and then these 3 therapists. It's really all of us together. All of us are here for the same thing, which is to make sure our kiddo is doing an awesome job, and they're growing and they're developing and they're reaching their goals and managing their behaviors. We want all of that, and we want all of it together. And so the parent is really, really the backbone of that, because we can teach a skill for 15 minutes of our 45-minute session one time a week, but if that's all the exposure the child is getting, it's not going to stick really well. So the parent is really, really essential, and we want them to feel essential. We want them to feel confident. We want them to feel involved. If your parent's at work a lot, you can always reach out, call them once a week, text them after the session is over, let them know what went well, and just let them know what you'd like them to work on. I've had homes where in the session I'm working with the grandma or the dad, and I'll go ahead and send mom a text before I leave their home, just to let her know what went well, what I asked grandma to work on, or what I asked dad to work on, so she knows, so she's in the loop even though she was at work. And so everybody is on the same page, because the more we expose the kiddo to these skills, the more everybody's on the same page and working together, the faster our kiddos are going to learn, and they're going to be able to develop so much more quickly and successfully with everybody kind of working together. So in beginning this entire process, again, all of these skills will come with practice. They'll all come with exposure to different types of parents, different types of cultures, and they're really going to just come as we all grow. It takes time to develop all these skills, and they will come with the job. So just some things to think about when you're first starting off, specifically our first visit. I like to go in without any toys, and I'll let the parent know ahead of time, today we're just going to sit and talk. We're going to review your concerns. We're going to go over our schedule together, and I'm going to answer any questions you have. And just let them know ahead of time. That way they're prepared and not caught off guard. So I'll go in with no toys. I'll just go in with my binder, my paperwork, and the child's file if I have it. I'll do a brief recap of the program, how we're different from speech and OT and the other services our kiddos might be receiving. This is early intervention, so we're kind of the umbrella program. We're going to keep an eye on all of their developmental levels. We're going to be working on speech, but we're also going to be working on adaptive skills and their cognitive development and their fine motor skills. It's our job to sort of keep an eye on everything and sort of make sure our kiddos are well-rounded and they're really developing nicely. And again, the parent training falls more on our program as well. Oftentimes speech and OT will come into the home and sort of just handle the session on their own. They're working on their own specialized programs and helping the child develop very specific skills where we're sort of overlooking the whole thing. And so more of that parent training is going to fall on us. And we want to make sure to emphasize that in that first session, because that's going to set up those boundaries from day one, and it's going to help your parents stay involved and stay motivated and not be caught off guard if you try to involve them a lot more down the road when you weren't doing that from the beginning. So that's really important. The other thing that I like to do is review the parent concerns. So a lot of times that session with regional center and the first session with the supervisor or the PSC goes really quickly, and it's hard to keep track of all the information that's being thrown at our parents. It can be hard to remember what goals they set up with the regional center. I've had some parents even kind of forget that they set goals for their child because it's a lot and it's very overwhelming. So I like to go over that again. And sometimes the children will make progress in that week between going to regional center and coming to our program. And then some of the goals aren't really relevant anymore. So I always like to check in, not only that first session, but every week, and just say, what's come up for you this last week? What's really a concern? What's something that sticks out to you that you'd like to work on? And just get an idea, get a good feel for where your kiddo is at, get a good feel for where your parent is at and what they're expecting of their child. And then you can start to figure out how you want to work with that family based off of their specific needs. You can also use that first session to just observe the kiddo, right? Because we don't have a relationship with them yet. So this is a really special and unique time where we get to watch the child as they normally are because we're still a stranger in the home. It's going to be a little bit different down the line once they love you and they're excited to see you and they run up to you and they're ready to play, because they're not going to act as they would if you weren't in the home. So this first session is a great time to just observe the kiddo, watch how they play by themselves, or watch how the parent is responding to the child, and how they're speaking to their child, what that part of their day looks like naturally. It's going to give you a lot of great information to know what you need to help the parent work on throughout the child's day. And so that's a really good tool to not only hear what the parent has observed, but to also observe by yourself and to gather your own information, to get your own opinion of what's going on, and to just keep an eye out for any other areas that your kiddo might need help with. Again, restating the expectation that the parent will be involved in all the other sessions going forward. I like to also set up my schedule for the month during this first visit and really emphasize the parent choosing a time within our availability that is going to work for them. So we don't want a time where the kid may or may not be napping. We don't want a time where the parent might get called into work or might not be home on time. You don't want to be rushing into your sessions. You want to give the parent time to get home, to get settled. You want your kiddo to be awake. So that way we're setting them up for success, and just really addressing that in the first session, again, will help you maintain those boundaries later on down the line, just to avoid any confusion, just to avoid any concerns that may come up later on. And then after that, the next session, I'll bring in some toys. I like to bring in sort of commonly enjoyed toys. So things like bubbles, a ball, sometimes balloons, or cars, and you can get that information as well in the first session. Figure out what your kiddo likes to play with on their own, what they're already drawn to, and then bring some of those things in. Because those first 2 or 3 sessions, you're really just warming up to the kiddo and the family. You're just building your relationship with them. You're not going to push anything too hard, because that bond you have with that kiddo is really going to set the tone for everything you do going forward. more you can build a relationship with the kiddo and the family, the more you can build trust with them in these first few sessions, the better they're going to respond to you down the road when you're challenging them and pushing them to learn new skills. And it gets a little uncomfortable and overwhelming for them. And so they're really going to need to trust you and to be willing to follow your lead. So start off with universal toys, things that are just fun to play with. Play peekaboo, do music, do bubbles, get silly, have fun, reinforce the parent, like, wow, mom, what do you play with the kiddo? Okay, let's all do that together. Really connect yourself to the child and their family and things that they like and positive experiences. So if this kiddo loves trains, then have mom get out their favorite trains and everybody gets to play together, and you can make a game out of it and pass it back and forth. Just anything to really build that warm and inviting relationship. And then as you move on, you can start to switch things up. So I like to bring 2 preferred activities for that kiddo and then 1 non-preferred. So I can switch it up. We can start off with something they like to warm up the session, to get excited, to get ready to play, and then bring in something they don't particularly like or something that's hard for them to do that parent wants them to learn, and then follow that up again with another activity that they really like, something they really enjoy. Just alternate it so that way you are working on new skills, but you're giving them a break in between, and it can also serve as a reinforcer for them trying something new and challenging, and then they get this super fun activity afterwards, like saying, you know, you did such a good job, here's your reward for trying that new activity. And then you can adjust from there depending on the needs of your kiddo, depending on if they need help with behaviors or not. But that's sort of like where I like to start off with my families. And then again, just to keep the sessions fun, switch it up. If you notice that you've been working on language 3 weeks in a row, you know, give your kiddo a break and ask mom if you can go outside and do some gross motor activities, or see if you can meet up at a park. Of course, when everything's open again, try to meet up at a park and do something different. Just switch it up so your kiddo and your parent doesn't get bored. A tool I like to use is either observe if when you get into the house, your kiddo's walking away from you. It's probably a good sign that you need to switch something up. Or if you're in the middle of a session and you're feeling bored, that's another good sign that, you know, things might be a little redundant. We need to switch things up. Let's find something else to do. Let's do finger painting. Let's meet at a park. Let's meet at a store. Let's play a game with a sibling. Just anything out of the box that you can think of just to give them a break. Because again, they're going to need time to digest all those language skills anyway. So it's okay to take a break and switch up your sessions and have a new activity, you know, each session, or focus on a new developmental area every session or every couple of sessions. That way it's not getting repetitive and just sort of overwhelming for the parent and the kid and for yourself as well. Also, I would check in, you know, weekly, again, like I mentioned before. Just ask the parent, you know, has anything else come up this week? Is there anything challenging that you've seen? Children at this age cycle through behaviors quite often, and they're constantly growing, they're constantly changing. So a lot of the time you will find that from when you saw them last week, something new has come up that the parent might be concerned about, or they just might need to be educated about. Some examples of that could be increased tantrums because there's a new sibling in the house now, or family came over and it's overwhelming for our kiddo. Another example could be decreased appetite, which toddlers go through pretty naturally. And so just keeping an eye on those things is going to help you understand what your family is going through. And then it might give you a good idea of how to switch up that following session so you can address this new concern that's come up for your family. And then just making plans for your sessions that include your parent. So again, those outings are really helpful, or doing like a painting activity outside and have mom over here and the kiddo right next to her, and okay, we're all going to paint together, we're all going to do it together. Or, you know, playing catch together, playing bubbles and taking turns together, having mom push the kiddo on a swing at the park or in the backyard. Just things that are really inclusive will keep the sessions feeling fresh and feeling fun. It'll keep your parents involved, and it's going to boost your kiddos' confidence because they have you there to help them, but they also have all of this reinforcement, all of this attention and support from their parent, who's their favorite person, or a grandparent, whoever is working with you in the session. It just helps on every level for everyone involved. And again, remembering that all of these things come with time, they come with experience. You've got a great team to back you up if you need extra ideas of activities or if you need resources. The team is always a great place to check in. You can always check out new toys from the office and see if there's something new there that you could use, like a trampoline or a ball or something really fun that you just want to introduce to your kiddo and just see how they respond to it. Most of what we do is trial and error. These kiddos already have their own personality, and we're getting to know them just as much as they're getting to know us. So being able to just have fun and be flexible and adjust. And just remember that with all of these things, I know it's a lot, practice makes perfect. So the more you can challenge yourself, the more you can practice these skills, the more you can model them for your parents, the more parents are going to trust you, follow your lead, and the more the kiddo is going to benefit from it. Because at the end of the day, we're all a team, and all of our input is necessary for our kiddos to be as successful as they possibly can.